The story opens outside a grand federal courthouse in New York City. Reporters swarm the steps, cameras flashing. A black car pulls up, and the accused, Michael Harris, a young investment banker, steps out in handcuffs. His face is pale, but his eyes show something strange. Not guilt, not fear, but calculation. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere is thick with tension. The judge, stern and old-fashioned, sits high above. The prosecution team, led by District Attorney Rachel Monroe, is composed and ready. On the defense side sits Daniel Carter, a relatively new defense lawyer with sharp eyes but heavy pressure on his shoulders. The judge's gavel bangs. Case of the state versus Michael Harris, charged with the murder of socialite Anna Whitmore. How does the defendant plead? Michael looks up slowly. Not guilty, Your Honor. Gasps echo through the courtroom. As Michael is led back to his seat, a woman in the audience suddenly faints. She is later revealed to be Anna Whitmore's sister. The fainting seems innocent, but Daniel notices something odd. She was staring not at Michael, but at one of the jurors. Suspense builds. What secret ties exist between the victim's family and the jury? District Attorney Rachel Monroe rises with quiet authority. The jury leans forward as she paces slowly. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the evidence will show that Michael Harris brutally murdered Anna Whitmore, a young woman who trusted him. You will hear testimony about his lies, his financial desperation, and the night Anna never came home. She pauses, locking eyes with the jury. This was not a crime of passion. It was a crime of calculation. Michael shifts uncomfortably. His lawyer, Daniel Carter, takes notes furiously. The prosecution calls its first witness, Detective Frank Delgado, the lead investigator. Delgado, rugged and seasoned, steps up and swears on the Bible. He testifies that Anna's body was found in her Manhattan apartment. Cause of death: blunt force trauma. Signs of forced entry, but nothing was stolen. Then comes the bombshell. Delgado found Michael's fingerprints on the glass of wine near Anna's body. The jury murmurs. Daniel Carter immediately scribbles something down. Defense lawyer Daniel Carter rises, adjusting his tie. He approaches Delgado with quiet confidence. Detective, are you saying Michael Harris was the only person who drank wine with Anna that night? Delgado frowns. His prints were the only clear ones we found. Daniel smirks slightly. But you didn't check for partial or smudged prints, did you? Delgado hesitates. The jury notices. Rachel Monroe quickly objects. But the seed of doubt has been planted. Rachel Monroe regains control. She presents surveillance footage from Anna's building, showing Michael entering the apartment the night of the murder, and leaving 2 hours later, looking nervous. The footage plays on a large courtroom screen. The jury watches in silence. Michael's face is pale, but Daniel Carter notices something subtle. The timestamp seems slightly off. Your Honor, Daniel says quietly, we'll revisit this footage later. Suspense hangs in the air. After a full day of prosecution evidence, the court reconvenes. Daniel Carter rises, adjusting his jacket, and steps toward the jury box. Ladies and gentlemen, he begins calmly. You've heard what the prosecution thinks happened, but trials are about facts, not assumptions. He pauses. My client, Michael Harris, has been painted as a murderer. But what if I told you that Anna Whitmore's death is connected to secrets much darker than Michael's fingerprints on a wine glass? Gasps ripple across the courtroom. Even Michael looks at Daniel with surprise. Daniel calls his first witness, Evelyn Brooks, Anna's elderly neighbor. Evelyn testifies that on the night of the murder, she heard shouting from Anna's apartment. A woman's voice arguing with another woman, not a man. This revelation stuns the courtroom. Rachel Monroe objects, but the judge allows it. The jury exchanges looks. Could another woman have been in Anna's apartment that night? Rachel Monroe rises sharply. Mrs. Brooks, your eyesight isn't what it used to be, correct? And your hearing, less reliable than years ago. Evelyn trembles but insists. I know what I heard. 2 women shouting. One of them was Anna. Daniel gives a faint smile. A seed of doubt is now firmly planted. During a recess, Daniel reveals a trump card. He presents the judge with a letter found in Anna's belongings. A letter written by Anna herself, addressed to someone cryptically called R. The letter speaks of fear, betrayal, and a warning. If you come near me again, I'll tell everyone what you've done. When Daniel introduces the letter into evidence, the courtroom explodes with whispers. Michael looks stunned. He's never seen it before. Rachel Monroe's face turns pale. The jury notices. As court adjourns for the day, Daniel notices something strange. One juror, a middle-aged man in glasses, avoids eye contact whenever the letter is mentioned. Daniel scribbles a note. Find out who juror number 6 really is. The suspense thickens. Not only could the victim's death be connected to another person, but now it seems the jury itself may be compromised. The next morning, the courtroom is packed. Reporters fill every bench. Daniel Carter wastes no time. He holds up the letter again. This letter was written by Anna Whitmore herself, days before her death. Addressed only to R. The prosecution wants you to believe Michael Harris is guilty, but Anna was clearly terrified of someone else. The jury whispers among themselves. Rachel Monroe clenches her jaw but says nothing. Daniel introduces his next witness, a bank manager. Records show that Anna withdrew a large sum of money days before her death and transferred it to an account under the initials RM. The courtroom goes silent. The initials are the same as Rachel Monroe, the prosecutor herself. Gasps echo. The judge bangs his gavel for order. Rachel stands, her face composed but pale. This is absurd. That account could belong to anyone. But the doubt is there. For the first time, the jury looks at the prosecutor suspiciously. Rachel Monroe regains her composure. During cross-examination, she points out that the account could belong to countless people with the same initials. Then, with a sharp smile, she pivots. Mr. Carter, isn't it true your client had millions in debt? Isn't it true that Anna Whitmore was about to expose his financial crimes? The defense objects. The judge sustains. But the damage is done. Suspicion swings back toward Michael. The prosecution calls Anna's sister, Claire Whitmore, the same woman who fainted earlier. Claire takes the stand, her voice trembling with grief. She testifies that Anna had confided in her. She was afraid of Michael. But when Daniel cross-examines, cracks appear. Claire avoids answering when asked if Anna ever mentioned anyone named R. Daniel notices her hands shaking. Finally, Daniel asks, Ms. Whitmore, why did you faint on the first day of trial while staring at juror number 6? The courtroom gasps. Claire stutters, unable to answer. The judge orders recess. During recess, Daniel investigates further. With help from a private investigator, he learns a shocking detail. Juror number 6, real name Robert Miller, once had a romantic relationship with Claire Whitmore. This connection could explain everything. Claire's fainting, her nervous testimony, and perhaps even a hidden motive. Daniel now suspects the jury itself has been tampered with. As court resumes, Daniel Carter can feel the atmosphere shift. Reporters whisper furiously, jurors exchange uneasy glances, and Rachel Monroe's face remains unreadable. Daniel takes a deep breath, then addresses the court. Before we continue, Your Honor, the defense requests an inquiry into the possible conflict of interest involving juror number 6, Robert Miller. The courtroom erupts. The judge pounds his gavel for silence. Judge Halvorson, stern and towering, calls both attorneys to the bench. Mr. Carter, you're treading dangerous ground. Jury integrity is the backbone of this trial. If you make claims without proof, I will hold you in contempt. Daniel doesn't flinch. Your Honor, I do have proof. Juror number 6 was romantically involved with Claire Whitmore, the victim's sister. Gasps fill the room. Rachel Monroe's eyes narrow sharply. The judge orders a recess for private review. Behind closed doors, juror number 6, Robert Miller, is questioned. At first, he denies everything. But under pressure, he admits he knew Claire years ago, though he claims the relationship ended long before Anna's death. Daniel presses harder. Then why did Claire faint the moment she saw you in the jury box? Robert sweats. He refuses to answer. The judge looks grim. This trial may already be compromised. When court resumes, the judge announces, "This court acknowledges a prior connection between juror number 6 and the victim's sister. While it may not invalidate the trial yet, the jury is instructed to disregard any personal connections. But the damage is done." The jury now looks divided, some glaring at Robert, others whispering nervously. Daniel seizes the moment. "Ladies and gentlemen, if the jury itself can be compromised, what else in this case has been manipulated?" The room falls silent. Later that evening, Daniel's investigator uncovers another bombshell. Robert Miller's financial records show large unexplained deposits just weeks before the trial began. Could someone have paid him to influence the jury? Daniel connects the dots. The initials RM on Anna's money transfer, Robert Miller's name, and Claire Whitmore's nervous breakdown. He realizes with a chill, maybe the letter wasn't meant for Rachel Monroe at all. Maybe it was meant for Robert Miller. The next morning, the courtroom is uneasy. Reporters' headlines scream about a corrupt juror and possible trial manipulation. Rachel Monroe opens fiercely. "The defense wants to distract you with conspiracy theories. But this case is simple. Michael Harris killed Anna Whitmore, and we will prove it beyond doubt." But her voice wavers ever so slightly. Rachel calls her strongest witness, Dr. Lewis, a forensic expert. He testifies that the blunt force trauma on Anna's head matches a heavy glass sculpture found in Michael's apartment. Rachel's voice sharpens. Not only was Michael there that night, but he took the very object he used to kill her back home. The jury looks horrified. Michael grips the defense table, whispering, "That's impossible. I never touched that sculpture." Daniel rises smoothly. "Dr. Lewis, you said the sculpture was found in my client's apartment. Were his fingerprints on it?" The doctor hesitates.
No.
"None." Daniel presses harder. "And did you know that the sculpture was a gift from Anna to her sister, Claire?" The jury gasps. Claire, sitting in the gallery, stiffens. Daniel calls Claire Whitmore back to the stand. His voice is calm but sharp as a knife. "Ms. Whitmore, did your sister ever give you a glass sculpture as a gift?" Claire stammers. I don't recall." Daniel steps closer. "Isn't it true, Ms. Whitmore, that the sculpture wasn't found in Michael's apartment at all, but in yours?" The courtroom explodes with gasps. Claire's face drains of color. Rachel Monroe slams her fist on the table, shouting, "Objection!" The judge struggles to restore order. During recess, Daniel pieces it together with his investigator. Anna wrote a warning letter to RM could be Robert Miller, the juror. The glass sculpture belonged to Claire. Anna was terrified, but not of Michael. She feared someone close to her own family. The defense realizes the case is bigger than a murder trial. It's a conspiracy web involving Anna's sister, her ex-lover Robert Miller, and money that vanished into secret accounts. As court adjourns, Daniel receives a threatening anonymous note slipped under his briefcase. "Stop digging, or you'll end up like Anna." He crumples the note, his jaw tightening. Michael looks at him nervously. Daniel whispers, "We're closer to the truth than ever," and that scares them. The trial resumes under heavy security. Rumors about corruption and threats swirl around the courthouse. Every reporter in New York is crammed into the gallery. Daniel Carter looks at Michael Harris. "This is it. If we don't break them today, you're done." Michael nods silently, sweat on his forehead. Daniel surprises everyone by calling a new witness, a former financial analyst named Mark Turner. Mark testifies that Anna confided in him weeks before her death. She told him someone close to her family was blackmailing her, someone with power and access. Daniel asks the golden question, "Did she mention a name?" Mark swallows hard. "She said, Robert." She was terrified of him. The courtroom gasps. Juror number 6, Robert Miller, grips his chair, face red. Suddenly, Robert Miller leaps from the jury box. "Lies! All lies!" he screams, pointing at Daniel. The judge shouts, Bailiffs rush forward, and chaos explodes. Robert struggles against security, shouting, "She was going to ruin everything. She deserved it." The gallery screams. Claire Whitmore faints again. The entire courtroom is in pandemonium. The judge clears the courtroom and orders the jury sequestered. Robert Miller is dragged out in handcuffs, still shouting incoherently. Rachel Monroe looks shaken but quickly regains her composure. "Your Honor, this man's outburst cannot erase the overwhelming evidence against Michael Harris." But the jury's faith in the prosecution is fractured. They whisper among themselves, clearly rattled. Daniel seizes the moment. "Ladies and gentlemen, the truth is unraveling before your eyes. Don't ignore it." As the day ends, Daniel returns to his office. Waiting on his desk is a small box. Inside, a shattered piece of glass, the same sculpture used as the murder weapon. And a note: "The wrong man is on trial. Stop before more blood is spilled." Daniel stares at it, heart pounding. The real killer is still out there, and he knows Daniel is getting close. The courtroom is quieter now, the weight of Robert Miller's outburst still heavy in the air. Reporters whisper, cameras click. Rachel Monroe tries to steady the prosecution's case. The actions of one juror, no matter how disturbing, do not change the fact that Michael Harris killed Anna Whitmore. But the jury no longer looks convinced. Daniel Carter sees doubt spreading like wildfire. Daniel brings forward a new piece of evidence, bank records. "These," he says, holding up documents, "are offshore accounts belonging to Robert Miller. And the deposits? They came from someone very close to Anna." He pauses. "The amounts match the withdrawals Anna made before her death." The jury leans in. Rachel rises quickly. "Objection. Hearsay." The judge slams the gavel. "Overruled. The jury will hear this." Daniel turns toward Claire Whitmore, who sits pale in the gallery. "Ms. Whitmore, would you please take the stand again?" She trembles as she walks up. Daniel's voice is cold and sharp. "Isn't it true that you funneled money into Robert Miller's accounts? Isn't it true you were the one blackmailing your sister?" Claire shakes her head violently. "No. I loved Anna. I would never." But her voice cracks, and the jury sees the truth. Daniel presses on. "Anna found out about the money. She wrote the letter to our Robert Miller. But she trusted you, Claire. She never imagined her own sister was part of it." Claire breaks down, sobbing uncontrollably. "I didn't mean for it to happen. She was going to expose everything. We would have lost everything." The courtroom explodes. The judge slams his gavel. Bailiffs step forward as Claire collapses on the stand. But Daniel feels a cold unease. Claire has confessed to financial schemes, but something doesn't fit. He whispers to Michael, "She's not the killer. She's covering for someone." At that moment, his investigator rushes in with a note. It's a forensic update. The shattered sculpture fragment left in Daniel's office had Claire's fingerprints, but also another set, unidentified. Daniel's eyes widen. The real killer is still in the shadows. The courtroom is eerily quiet. Claire's breakdown has shattered the prosecution's case, but Daniel knows the puzzle is incomplete. "Judge Wallace? Mr. Carter? Do you have anything further?" Daniel steps forward slowly, holding the forensic report. "Yes, Your Honor. I believe the killer is still in this room." The gallery gasps. Reporters scramble to write. "Daniel, the fragment left in my office carried Claire's prints, but also another set. Prints belonging to someone with unrestricted access to the evidence locker." He turns toward the prosecution's table. "Rachel Monroe." The courtroom explodes in gasps. Rachel's face freezes, her mask cracking for the first time. Rachel rises, voice trembling but furious. "This is outrageous. I've spent my career fighting for justice." Daniel slams the report on the desk. "You spent your career hiding behind justice while eliminating anyone who threatened your ambition. Anna discovered your secret relationship with Robert Miller. She knew you were funneling money, and worse." Rachel's face twists. "You don't know what you're talking about." Daniel leans in. "She trusted you. You used that to silence her forever." Suddenly, Rachel lashes out. You think you're so clever, Carter? You have no idea what it takes to survive in this system. Her voice rises, echoing through the chamber. She was weak. She was going to destroy everything I built. So yes, I made sure she never got the chance. The courtroom falls silent. Her words hang in the air like a gunshot. Judge Wallace slams the gavel. Bailiffs, take her into custody. Rachel Monroe is dragged out in handcuffs, still shouting. Michael Harris lowers his head, tears filling his eyes, tears of relief. For the first time, he believes he might be free. Daniel turns to him, whispering, "It's over. You're going home." But deep inside, Daniel knows the fight isn't over yet. Rachel was the killer, yes, but the corruption that enabled her runs deeper than anyone can imagine. The jury files out, their faces pale from the chaos they've witnessed. The courtroom is silent, every tick of the clock echoing like thunder. Michael Harris sits frozen, his hands shaking. Daniel leans close. Whatever happens now, we fought the truth into the light. Hours crawl by. Finally, the jury returns. The foreman stands, paper trembling in his hands. We, the jury, find the defendant, Michael Harris, not guilty. Gasps ripple through the courtroom. Michael collapses into tears, covering his face. Daniel grips his shoulder tightly, relief flooding his features. Judge Wallace nods firmly. "Mr. Harris, you are free to go." As bailiffs escort Rachel Monroe past the defense table in handcuffs, she glares at Daniel with venom. "You think you've won, Carter? You haven't seen the half of it. This system will eat you alive." Daniel doesn't flinch. "No, Rachel. It just ate you." Outside the courthouse, Michael Harris steps into the sunlight for the first time in months. Reporters swarm, microphones flashing. How does it feel to be a free man? Michael's voice cracks with emotion. "I just want to see my daughter. That's all." Daniel watches from the steps, exhaustion etched into his face. For him, it's a victory, but a hollow one. Late that night, Daniel sits alone in his office. The verdict is won, but he stares at the broken sculpture fragment on his desk, the murder weapon. Justice was served today, but only partly. Rachel may be behind bars, but Daniel knows the corruption that fed her rise still runs deep. He whispers to himself, "In this city, the trial never really ends." Fade out.